So here he comes, Greg Eisenberg. Reuben Schwartz was standing in the lobby of the synagogue, looking at the memorial wall and all the names. And he noticed some of the names had little flags on them. He stared at them for a long time until the rabbi saw him and walked across the lobby and said, "Reuben, what are you doing just staring at these names?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking at all these names and I see some of them have flags next to them. Why is that?" And the rabbi explained, "Well, these are some people who died in service." And Reuben looked for a long time. And finally he turned to the rabbi and said, "Which service? Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur?" Tonight is Yom Kippur, and I'm flattered and humbled that you came to spend it with me. And thank you so much. My name is Greg Eisenberg, everyone, and I really only care about three things: money, power, and the salvation of all living beings. The Mexican poet Cesar Cruz once said, "Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable." And in a way, I resonate with that. I'm trying to do the same with this material. I want to keep that lonely nephew or that eccentric aunt or that forlorn existential friend company on long winter nights. But I also want to disturb the comfortable. Not in a mean-spirited way, but I want to shake up how we use language, the expressions we commonly use, to help stir our conversation forward about who we are and what our role is on this planet going forward. And I think that humor can be a great tool in the service of inquiry. And for me, it was, and still will be, a tool for discovery, an exploration of my personal life, and also a kind of philosophical inquiry. I want to blow up some of our myths of who we say we are, so we can continue asking the right questions. So I think of my book as a catalog of carefully curated contradictions. It's modern Zen koans for Buddhists on the go. If you look at it, really, it's a book of aphorisms. I can do two things at once, or what I call laugherisms. They're really a collection of one-line jokes about, a lot of them about bankruptcy, police encounters, the IRS, lawsuits, blended with jokes about infinity, and physics, geometry, and math. I call them the Eisenberg principles. And they are, as you'll see, one-sentence vignettes. They're stories, essentially, or windows into a moment of a story. You don't need to know what happened before, and you don't need to know what happens after, or who the characters are. I'm giving you the important punchline that I want you to hear. So in a sense, they're all stories that are one sentence long. C.D. Lewis, the poet, once wrote, "I do not sit at my desk to put into verse something that is already clear in my mind. If it were clear in my mind, I should have no need to write about it. We write not to be understood, but to understand." So I'm not giving answers. I'm trying to show where the questions still are, at least in my mind. As I say in the introduction of my book, which is called "Letting Go is All We Have to Hold On To," I hope these jokes, known as the Eisenberg principles, will shed light on the contradictions of the human psyche and stir our collective conversation forward. I find many of the accepted linguistic devices and popular idioms that we use to speak about mind, meaning, and the human story unsatisfyingly simplistic. We need to keep digging, friends. We need to continue breaking the conceptual rocks, excavating the emotional terrain, and polishing the rough semantics we rely on to describe and relate to the human condition. There's two more things I want to say. One is about the process of writing this book and how long it took me to complete it. And I would like to say that this material all started in a hot tub about 10 years ago, just joking around with friends about our lives and what we see in language itself. They came out organically out of our conversations and our personal experiences. And certain formulas of humor started emerging. I ended up curating this material and continuing to write for a good handful of years. And the reason why it took a while is the ideas kept getting sharper. I became better at the formulas that I was stumbling on. Michelangelo said, "You keep sculpting the marble until there's nothing left to take away." And I agree with that. I felt finally done taking away the material that wasn't up to par, that wasn't refined, that wasn't conveying important ideas. I care a lot about the reader's experience, and so I kept refining and refining until only the best material was still on the manuscript. I want you readers to enjoy the ride, and you're welcome very much. The last thing I want to say is humor is harder to write than other forms of writing for me. I started out writing poetry as a child and a teenager and moved into songwriting in my 20s and 30s. Didn't really start writing humor until my mid-30s. With songs or poems, it's actually not too hard to know or guess which parts people will like or might not understand. Like in a poem, if you write a line like, "He is searching for what relics still remain of who he was becoming when his eyes first drank liquid gypsum from the silver unknown." You kind of know that people that like surrealistic poetry or Pablo Neruda are going to like that. It's kind of a proven thing. And with music, when you go from a G chord through that G sharp diminished and you land on the A minor, you know that people that like that kind of music are probably going to love those chords. But with humor, or with jokes, it's very difficult to separate yourself from the material and get the distance necessary and look at it somewhat objectively. Is this something that I think is funny because I have some subtle associations with some of the words, or the idea is just shooting some of my neurons in a certain way, and am I the only one, and no one else will like it? It's very hard to know. And as many of you know, I vetted the material very heavily. You have to vet humor. You have to ask other people what they think, I believe. And I asked many of you what they think. And in fact, I had a number of years ago, 12 friends rate 400 of my jokes, and this is an Excel spreadsheet I'm looking at right here. 400 of my jokes on a 1 to 10 scale. Are any of you here? You did. You only got through about 80 of them. I included your votes. And was that hard to do? Or you just go, that I don't get, that one I love, this one I hate?
Gut instinct.
Pardon?
Gut instinct.
Gut instinct, right. So, that's not obsessive, though, is it? I think writing is actually sort of an obsessive endeavor. If you care about it, then you end up caring about every word, and every word has to be in place. And you have to say bye-bye to the ones that don't make it, even though you had hope for them, and you thought, if I could just find the right verb, or if I can just tweak the ending, it will be a great joke. But it's better than perfect. It's done. Thank you. Well, what I learned from all of my vetting is that each joke lands very differently for each person, and there's just no predicting. For one guy, one joke is going to be funny right out of the gate. For the next gal, it's going to make them think of a memory they had when they were at the beach when they were 10 years old. For the next person, it's going to make them think of their grandmother. And grandmothers aren't funny. I was going for a reaction then. I got it. I thought you'd be the easy target too with that. I thought of you. So anyway, each Heisenberg principle is going to send each of you into your own private reverie. Not all are supposed to make you laugh. It's like making love. First you have to warm them up. You have to open their minds. And then you go for the heavier material. And then you lighten it up again. I hope that this ride is enjoyable for you. So I have not picked which jokes I'm going to share. I think I'm just going to put the mic down, project my voice, and see where the muse takes us. Letting go is all we have to hold on to. Chapter 1. Take my advice and think for yourself. Werner Heisenberg said, not only is the universe stranger than we think, it's stranger than we can think. Bertrand Russell said, mathematics is the subject in which we never know if what we are saying is true. And Greg Eisenberg said, I can verify with 100% certainty that I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. We were practicing Zen when the identity theft happened, which is why they didn't really get much. I like to learn from all people, but especially those who agree with me. I do believe in a completely parallel universe. I just don't think we're going to run into it anytime soon. I wouldn't worry about it. We got bigger problems. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. A thought I ponder often on my way to the bathroom. I always follow my instincts, except when I get a feeling maybe I shouldn't. This is one of my favorites. The rest of us think you're being totally paranoid for feeling singled out by the group. I think a lot of my jokes are about the games we play, by the way, with each other and with ourselves. So, unlike you, I'm not drawing distinctions between us. This is a very Boulder joke. I live in Louisville, but I wrote it in Louisville on South Boulder Road. The people who say you create your reality with your thoughts sure are hard to get away from at parties. I do agree with Plato. To thine own self be true, but not necessarily about everything. And certainly not all at once. I love that you're such a free spirit, and I want you to be mine forever. I am totally irreverent, but only out of a deep respect for everything that's sacred.
That is true.
Yeah, is that a joke or is it truth? My friend Vic Shane once said, all humor is philosophy. My other friend Evan Hodkin said, the next religion will consist of a catalog of jokes. Follow me. I'm making a detailed list of all the things in life I'd rather not remember. That joke? You like that one? I'm making a detailed list of all the things in life I'd rather not remember. That was the number one joke that those 12 friends who voted on a 1 to 10 scale on 400 jokes, that was the number one.
They like lists.
They like lists. I can tell you what the least favorite one was. And I can also tell you the one that had the highest standard deviation. They were the most split. Some people are like 9, 9, 10, 10, 1. It's terrible. Do you want to hear what that one was? Yeah. It was, if God is watching me, oh, this is a bad, sorry, we're cool. Sorry, you read that one? If God is watching me, he obviously hasn't heard of Netflix. See? She's going, well, that's not good. So you can't predict. I like it. I like it a lot.
What was the lowest?
And I put it in the book. The big industrial war machine gave me another quiet morning in the jacuzzi. That was the lowest rated joke that she asked, and so I put it in the book. I like it. Okay. Chapter 2, real space has curves. That's important. Jews don't drink much, said Milton Berle, because it interferes with their suffering. Oscar Wilde said, one's real life is often the life one does not lead. Greg Eisenberg said, I would offer to be there with you in spirit, but I have a prior commitment. The best way to stop looking for yourself is probably just around the next corner. I'm feeling fine, which is just a rough average between devastated and ecstatic. I started to party on Wednesday this week just to take a little pressure off the weekend. I know a lot of you work on the weekend to get ready for the week coming up. God bless you. Living in a radically paradoxical universe has been nothing but a complete blessing. God only knows if I'll use my free will this time. The people who believe in mind over matter are running straight at us with large sticks in their hand. I feel deep gratitude for all the ways positive thinking helped me win my lawsuit against my kids. Okay, I want that one to work. I want that joke to work. Does having too many options make you feel happy, sad, burdened, angry, or irritable? Let it out. Nihilists claim we can't know anything. I don't even think we know that. There's also art in my book. I will point out that there are 16 chapters, and each chapter has a spread like this with a single quote and either an original image or an image that I procured. The joke here is, the contradictions in life drive me crazy, but for some reason, the paradoxes don't bother me a bit. And obviously, my humor is a lot about contradiction and paradox and dualism. I have seen the future of dualism, by the way, and I can tell you this: it's not all good. My shadow self tends to grow longer in the late afternoon, usually around sunset. Is it just my imagination, or am I making things up? That one's not meant to be funny. That's one of the more thinker ones. But hey, like I said, I can't predict where they will land or how they will land. I just hope they land. We don't need to look beyond our own minds to find the possibility of meaning. But we might need to look away from our phones for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to model the behavior of not conforming to example for others. I am not my thoughts. I am not this body. And frankly, I'm not very employable. The way a song has a melody is not the same way a car has the color red, or the way my wife has irritable bowel syndrome. Now this is meant to be interactive, so let me have it. Hey, this is a real opportunity to do things the same way we've always done them before. Chapter 3, even the earth is bipolar. And by the way, that's the name of a show, a science comedy show that I do at Fisk Planetarium that Vic was referring to earlier when he introduced me. And I am doing that show again on Saturday, October 13th. Even the earth is bipolar. The world would be more tolerant of differences if everyone were more like me. You really only get what you pay for in life if you want my 2 cents. For a small fee, we tell you you can do great things. For a large fee, we say you can do anything. I say that this book is for people in recovery from the self-help industry. So I'm here for you. There's a lot of work you need to do on yourself before you can realize you're fine the way you are. I'm working on it. I saw the universe in a grain of sand about 10 minutes before the police picked me up. Thank you. What's that woman poet who said you can see the universe? I can't think of her name right now. Other than how it compromises my sanity, I think our relationship is pretty healthy. Which reminds me, I'm going to start just skipping around in my mind. What was I just thinking of? Other than how it compromises my sanity, I think our relationship is pretty healthy. I just lost the one I was going to go to. It was... it'll come to me. I'm your Prince Charming, come to set you free and take you home to my mother. Stay with me, baby. Lao Tzu believed the truth that can be spoken of is not the eternal truth, which explains why he was so quiet at parties. I dig that one. My identity crisis is clearly what my life is all about. Ooh. We never show favoritism to any of our children. Our middle child wouldn't stand for it. I'm going to let that one sink in for a second. Look for the truth within, friends. It's a lot cheaper than airfare to Asia. You know, I don't compare myself to others nearly as much as some people do. This is another one of the spreads in the middle of chapter 3. I keep losing sight of the fact that everything is fleeting. And everything is fleeting, but it's easy to forget. My first reflex upon hearing you is to suggest you stop being so robotic in your responses. I'm extremely patient and loving with everyone, up to the point someone gets on my nerves. Yeah. We owe it to future generations to cut all ties with the past. I'm a pretty nice guy, especially for someone like me. That's one of my faves. Oh, this is the one I was thinking of. There's absolutely no honor in trying to defend your dignity to others for anything more than 4 hours per day. Some of this is autobiographical, not all of it. Some of it's about you, some of it's about me, I don't know. As you get older, you get clearer about what's really transpiring around you. But aside from that, it's an enjoyable process. Chapter 4, just say no to your resistance. See, life is simple. The solutions are just right there. William Faulkner said, the past isn't dead. It isn't even past. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the efforts we make to escape from our destiny only serve to lead us into it. Greg Eisenberg said, it just wasn't my fate to become the person I was always destined to be. I was thoroughly indoctrinated as a child to resist all forms of thought control. I want to go back to the good old days when I couldn't appreciate how good I had it. Oh, this is not autobiographical, by the way. I'm so much more than just a guy sitting here stripping away his delusions of grandeur. I gotta be, right? When I see how little progress I've made in my Buddhist practice lately, I feel emptiness inside. I'm clearly, this is also one of my favorites, I'm clearly headed straight towards having no direction in life. Let's see, I used to live in the present moment and plan to get back there again soon. Oh, there it is, the big industrial war machine gave me a quiet morning in the jacuzzi. It's on the same page with being on the cutting edge of cultural change is coming back into vogue these days. I bought everything I need for the revolution at Walmart, and it was all on clearance. Now that's an example of a joke. Byron's not here, is he? That's an example of a joke where someone told me that he thought that was a joke about guns. Isn't that funny? What else would you buy at Walmart for the revolution except guns? And I thought, well, that's not really where I was going with the joke. So that's not his favorite joke. And he looked puzzled. But I can't control that. I'm trying to, actually one of my jokes is, how you perceive me is ultimately up to you. All I can do is try to manipulate the process. Now, the concept of diminishing returns keeps getting more and more important every day. Here's another spread in chapter 4. To rid oneself of useless thoughts, one must first study the function, purpose, and history of thinking. Better get started soon. I'm just going to read a few more. Let me skip over to chapter 5. Immediate gratification is worth waiting for. Oscar Wilde, again, he said, in this world, there are only two tragedies. One is not getting what one wants, and the other is getting it. Horace, the Greek philosopher, said, a comic jest often decides matters of importance more effectually than serious statements. Greg Eisenberg said, discovering that free will is a total illusion actually opened up a lot of options for me. Thich Nhat Hanh said, Buddhism teaches us not to run away from suffering. But what about from the IRS? He never made a statement about that. I asked a friend in California, he said, I'm loving your book. I said, which one is your favorite so far? He said, this one. And actually, I said, that's so funny because another friend of mine who's in the room said, this doesn't work as a joke. So we're going to find out here in a second. I know I told you yesterday to stop living in the future, but now it's today, so can we stop living in the past? Yeah?
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it. I said to him, I think that's really a relationship joke. It's not really a joke about time. Right? It's like you're involved with this person who's like, yesterday I was saying this, and now I'm saying, you can't be right with this person. You can't get it right. The idea of ownership is a complete myth. But you should still hang on to your receipts anyway. I'm a free spirit, but I'm raising my rates soon. Please don't reduce a mid-20s East Bay pro-choice progressive to your like me to your simplistic labels.
That's funny.
You like that one? These are my babies. Wanting English to be the official language is a real zeitgeist of the times. And it's all but a fait accompli. There's a global conspiracy trying to make us believe only a few people control the world. Yeah, I'm glad you're on board with that. Facebook is the perfect tool to destroy the dominant paradigm while helping its shareholders too. Life is not a popularity contest. If you agree, please like, comment, and share. Big Brother isn't watching me, at least that's what my Google searches are showing. I never could have escaped the delusion of separation without you. This is another spread in chapter 5 with an image, and this is my probably, it's not my favorite, but it's an important joke for me, if a joke can be important, which it can be. My search for truth came to an abrupt end when I realized there is no finality. Is that very me? Is that very you? I don't know. My search for truth came to an abrupt end when I realized there is no finality. That's a joke about the mind. That's why I call this Buddhist humor, in a way, because a lot of it is psychological, it's about thoughts, it's about thinking. And one day I realized, I'm going to keep thinking until I die. I'm never going to stop thinking. And so, will I ever get to a point where I've arrived at the truth and I'm resting there? I doubt it. I hope you do. I'm not planning on it. I already did that one before the police picked me up. I learned how to stop mimicking the behavior of others from the best. I'm only using 5% of my brain's mental capacity, but that's okay, I'm only taking out the garbage. Oh, I've been thinking about this one a lot lately. I'm right on the cusp of accepting that there's nowhere further to go. I gotta do some dumber ones here. Once I discovered the principles of randomness, everything in my life fell into place. I just just wasn't mature enough to appreciate the blessings of my early toddler years. Just want to let that settle in. Well, I'm choosing an unconscious lifestyle for a number of specific powerful reasons. If everything you do is slavishly serving the question, am I good enough? I have some bad news for you. Nothing cured my narcissism better than a good, long look in the mirror. There's a picture of Charlie Chaplin in the mirrors. Carefully curated catalog of contradictions. I'm practicing minimalism less and less every year. We live in a society that is stuck in egotistical overdrive, and I want to know what you're going to do about it. The polls are telling us to ignore what the surveys and focus groups are saying. That's definitely a 2016 joke, by the way. Yeah, we're not cool with polls and surveys anymore. As soon as you stop being so superstitious, your income will double. Oh yeah. Okay, this is a Yom Kippur joke. You ready? The spiritual warrior in me subdues my fierce anger and lovingly transforms it into petty resentment. You gotta work hard for stuff like that. A lot of time in the hot tub. If you don't stop feeling so responsible for everyone's feelings, you're gonna bring the whole group down. Nothing helped me stop looking back so much as past life regressions. I'll just do a few more. They were really helpful. I'm very forward-looking now. I've made a full-time job out of getting over myself. This is in chapter 6. That one says, there are things the human mind can never accept. You just have to get used to it. I'll just read a few more. I'm so grateful that you came out tonight. I've always thought a little false humility is better than no humility at all. I am not my body. Yeah, let me put on a little false humility for you. Arigato mucho. I am not my body. I am not the sum of my accomplishments. I am not what other people think of me. And I find all of this very uplifting. Let's see, chapter 6. Feeling insufficient just isn't good enough. Just give me an electric shock every time I succumb to behavioral conditioning. Ooh, I'm doing this page, okay. Kindness is the universal answer, my friends. Please don't annoy me with your personal questions. Yeah, how about that? You know love is the ultimate goal of human evolution because you know every damn thing. Whoa, testy. If you haven't learned to feel compassion for all living beings, your life has been a total waste of resources. Ouch. I'm trying to be uplifting with my humor. I know that humor is often used in a cynical way, and so I've taken some of the negative or harsh or cynical jokes out of the book. George Burns once said, acting is all about honesty. If you can fake that, you've got it made. Greg Eisenberg said, I'm cleverly disguised as someone not wearing a costume. Nietzsche said, it is precisely the truth, stated in a bold new way, that is the essence of humor. But then his appendix burst, his wife died, and he wrote The Will to Power. Chapter 8, think of me when you're meditating. I like to appear informed about the world, but I don't really want to know what's going on. If the suffering of humanity doesn't make you weep like a baby, then you're no man at all. I compensate for being a superhero at night by sleeping till noon most days. I have a terrible memory. I can't forget anything. Which is a little reminiscent of a quote from George Burns, who said, the key to happiness is good health and a bad memory. In my quest to conquer obsessive-compulsive disorder, I left no stones unturned. Took a lot of failure to get where I am today. I'll just do a few more. Most of the things I worried about never came to pass. It was the things I never saw coming. Rivka loves that joke. Some of my best laughers aren't here tonight because they're praying. But I think this is a form of prayer here. I'll do. Today is the first day of the Today is the first day. I admit I have a little problem with vanity, but aside from that, I have so many other good qualities. Folks, I want to genuinely apologize now for how insincere I'll turn out to be later. My personal story is just an illusion. You guys are Buddhists, right? You know what I'm talking about. My personal story is just an illusion. My ego is just an abstraction. And my criminal record is fictitious. I'm a great listener. I love to hear myself talk. So the jokes about vanity, those are like those are the easy, low-hanging fruit, I think. I saw the light driving home last night. This was also, I wrote this on South Boulder Road. I saw the light driving home last night. In fact, there were several, and they weren't white. Okay, well, let's see. Let's read something from the last chapter, because I believe that I put some important thoughts back there. Chapter 16, the beginning is near. George Orwell said, people can only be happy when they do not assume that the object of life is happiness. Right? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Jack Benny said, I don't deserve this award, but I have arthritis, and I don't deserve that either. That's called a great joke. Great joke. I don't deserve this award, but I have arthritis, and I don't deserve that either. Greg Eisenberg, I really should have stopped regretting the past a long time ago. Okay, chapter 16. Transcending the illusion of ego was easy. What's hard is not bragging about it. This next one's one of my faves. I'm desperately driven by my need not to be controlled by any pathology. I got a good front row here. You can't hear them, but they're laughing. I'm lucky my blog about the end of civilization was published before the internet went up in smoke. Oops, chapter 16, we're starting to get into the bloody stuff. People need to be told what's good and bad, and who am I to say if that's right or wrong? The universe keeps telling me that I'm not hearing voices on a vast enough scale. Vast enough scale. I'm working on it. Okay. I'm a lifelong lifelong learner. I make new mistakes all the time. I don't let other people set my standards any more than most people do. Yeah, let's see. It now takes our species 2 entire decades of nurturing our offspring to prepare them for 1 more decade of living in the basement. This is Michael Travers's favorite joke, this next one. It takes an entire village to raise a child, but only 1 dipstick to know the oil is low. Love thine enemies, and then work your way up to family. I thought I should take that. Einstein insisted God does not play dice with the universe, and I'm betting everything I own on this. I agree the rise and fall of humankind is epic in its overall scale and design, and your side of fries will be right up. Well, there's God. If God is watching me, he obviously hasn't heard of Netflix. We are already omniscient, we just don't know it yet. We all have to bend the facts a little in life to compensate for how we distort reality. Ooh, okay, these are the last 2 pages. I'll just tell you, I don't want to ruin the ending. But, yeah. Other than being chained to the human condition, all things are possible. Remember that one, Hildy? I remember you laughing. That was your favorite joke. Isn't that funny? I have associations with different people who have laughed at these, so I kind of know who you are. Okay, I don't want to ruin the end. I'm not running away from the truth, but I am backing up slowly. Barry, I love that you're so dynamic and how you never change. I don't want to do too many God jokes. Impermanence looks like it's going to be around a long, long time. Okay, I'll do 3 more. And I'm going to say thank you again. These are the Eisenberg principles. These are a carefully curated catalog of contradictions. Chapter 13, ambivalence is the only way forward. Eugene O'Neill said, there is no present or future, only the past, happening over and over again. Henry Miller said, unless we lose ourselves, there's no hope of finding ourselves. And Greg Eisenberg said, if you're not completely baffled by how we got here, you don't understand a lick of world history. There's a couple that I wanted to make sure to do tonight. My mind is racked in cognitive dissonance, and I say that with a mixture of pride and shame. Dualism does work for me, but only about half the time. And what was that one I was just thinking of? The principles of polarity aren't that great, but they don't suck either. Thank you. This is an ideal gift for people who don't read books. This is the book about quieting the mind that everyone is talking about. This is for people who are in no shape for the human condition. If you know anyone like that, buy it for them. This is everything you'll need to know about futility in one paperback. $12.99. This is the best book about nothingness there is. That's what my mom says. This is the book about impermanence that will last forever. And finally, folks, this is great for mediators, moderators, motivators, meditators, and medicators, which I assume includes most of us. Thank you again for coming out. I think I'm going to sit here. I will have a seat, please. mingle and hang out. Bye, Larry. It's good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, bro. See you next time.
Music.